We begin with a Louisiana story that is making international news. The horrifying death of Madison Brooks, a 19-year-old sophomore at LSU. It has cast a pall of sadness and anger over the Baton Rouge campus and is raising important questions about how we respond to rape culture and underage drinking.
Court records show Brooks was raped shortly before being hit by a car in the early hours Sunday, January 16th. She died in the hospital days later. This week, authorities charged 4 men, Kayvon Washington and a 17-year-old whose name we cannot release because he's underage. Both are charged with third-degree rape. The other two, Kason Carver and Everett Lee, are charged with principal to third-degree rape.
Now, surveillance video shows Brooks leaving Reggie's Bar in the Tigerland neighborhood with the 4 suspects 10 minutes before closing time at 2 a.m. They drove a short distance and parked the car where the assault happened, and then later dropped Brooks off on Burbank Drive. LSU President William Tate released a statement calling what happened to Madison Brooks evil while condemning the culture of underage drinking. Many, though, say his response missed the mark. I spoke with a leading advocate for rape victims, Morgan Lamondre.
I have never seen a situation in which it led to the death of an individual.
What ultimately happened to 19-year-old Madison Brooks may be a horrific first for S.T.A.R Executive Director Morgan Lamondre. But the aftermath, the reasons being bantered about, are as common as a cold. It's why S.T.A.R gave this statement on their webpage. Alcohol is not the cause of rape. Alcohol is used by perpetrators to facilitate rape.
Somebody could have picked up Madison Brooks, who was not a rapist, brought her home safe. Yes, she could have gotten sick from the alcohol, but based on the chain of events that happened in this situation, that is what led to her death, because rapists are the ones who picked her up, preyed on her, targeted her, and that ultimately led to her death.
So what concerns you the most about the aftermath of this?
What concerns me the most, I think, is that when you focus so much on the underage drinking, the same sexual assaults happen regardless of if the individuals are underage or not, regardless of if there was ever any alcohol to begin with. I mean, all of that sexual assault can still occur. And so when we look at those individuals who went to that bar, they were clearly there preying on her, picking her up, offered. I think that we need to focus on how to identify perpetrators. Back in the day, there would be these whistles they would give to girls. Oh, it was a rape whistle. Blow your whistle. Have the buddy system. We need to shift that focus on perpetrators. Let's give people who might be perpetrators whistles, so that way they can blow the whistle, sound the alarm if they might assault somebody. People who have them be in pairs and groups, so that way they can have a buddy that stops them if they're going to assault somebody. And I think a lot of times, we hear these individuals who are like, oh, well, this isn't rape, when we're constantly focused on where the line is and how not to cross the line, that's the wrong way to look at this, because if you're even getting to the line, then that's not a healthy interaction, and we need to start talking about what is healthy sexual interactions, but that is always considered very taboo. But the truth is, if people knew how to have healthy sexual interactions, they wouldn't even want to get to that line, because it's not a way to, it's just not a way to have healthy interactions. I think that what ends up happening with the narrative about training for LSU, well, the LSU student was the victim. So our trainings don't focus on how not to be a victim. Our trainings focus on how not to perpetrate, how to create a campus climate and culture that is safe. We do not train people to be like, oh, don't go here, don't drink. That's the wrong message, because the truth is, perpetrators, if one individual decides, okay, I'm not going to drink, that may reduce that individual's risk of being sexually assaulted, but the perpetrators are still there, so they'll just target somebody else. Right. So when we focus so much on individuals and who is being targeted, we don't actually address the problem. And in the situation with LSU, obviously any training that would have been done would not have been done with those perpetrators because they weren't LSU students.
Lamondre believes the training needs to begin early.
the focus that we really need to emphasize is K through 12 education. A lot of people are like, why would we want to teach, young people about healthy relationships? They're too young. But the truth is, if we're first starting to educate people when they're in college, we're already too late. We need to be having age-appropriate conversations with children from the moment they're in kindergarten all the way up until 12th grade before they're going to college. And it starts very small. It starts with, what is consent? When you're a child, people should not be making their kids hug people, their grandparents included, that they don't want to. They need to know that their body is their own and that they can control who they interact with physically, emotionally, and it starts there. And when you have a focus on that at a young age, that is when we will see a climate shift, a culture shift. And I think, all of the pressure on the businesses, that is great to address certain aspects of the problem, but we really need people to stand with us at the Capitol to get policies passed about K through 12 education, because anytime we're trying to deal with policies related to consent and healthy relationships, there is pushback because people assume that means we're going to be teaching people how to have sex, how to engage in risky behaviors. And what we're actually seeing from the research is when you teach kids about consent and healthy relationships, they wait much longer before having a sexual encounter, and the likeliness that it would be consensual is much higher in that, their understanding of what consent is. So that's where we need the pressure. The power that LSU has is great. We need them at the Capitol by our side.
Because LSU's been under the microscope for a couple of years now with Title IX and with sexual assaults not being reported, a number of things that gave the university a black eye. Have things changed? Do you see that the culture has changed noticeably?
To directly answer your question about has anything changed, no, but it's because it's not going to until we as a society really shift our attention, our energy into changing things from a very young age.